The champagne glass shattered at my feet. Before I could re-out, her hand connected with my face in front of 200 people. But what she didn't know? Every second was being recorded. And what those cameras caught next would destroy everything she thought she'd won.
My name is Diana, and I need to be honest with you from the start. I never thought I'd be the woman telling this kind of story.
You know the type I'm talking about. The kind where the wife gets humiliated, the husband cheats, and everyone watches like it's entertainment. Yeah, that wasn't supposed to be me.
And I had everything figured out, or so I thought. At 34 years old, I was a licensed architect working on projects that actually mattered to me.
Hey. My husband, Brandon, had built a solid career in real estate development.
We lived in a beautiful home in Atlanta, took vacations twice a year, and from the outside, everything looked exactly how it was supposed to look. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of building a life together, 8 years of believing that we were different from all those couples who fell apart. I actually used to feel sorry for women whose husbands cheated. I'd wonder what they missed, what signs they ignored.
The truth is, I started feeling something shift about 6 months before everything exploded. It wasn't anything obvious at first. Brandon started working later. He'd come home and go straight to his phone. When I'd walk into a room, he'd angle his screen away. Small things. Things you tell yourself don't mean anything because you don't want them to mean anything.
I remember one night I made his favorite dinner, lamb chops with garlic mashed potatoes. I set the table.
He came home 3 hours late, ate standing up at the counter, and barely said 10 words to me. When I asked if everything was okay, he snapped.
Told me I was being needy. Told me he had a stressful job and I should understand that. So I tried to understand. I gave him space. I convinced myself that every marriage goes through phases, and this was just ours. My mother always said that marriage takes work, so I worked. I worked at being more understanding, more patient, more quiet about my own needs. Then I found the receipt. It was stupid, really. I was looking for his insurance card in the car, and there it was. A hotel receipt from the Ritz downtown. $240 for a room he'd booked on a random Tuesday afternoon.
Not a business trip. Not anything he'd mentioned to me.
My hand shook when I held that piece of paper. I sat in that car for 20 minutes, just staring at it.
Part of me wanted to rip it up and pretend I never saw it. The other part of me knew that my entire life was about to change. When I confronted him that night, Brandon looked me dead in my eyes and lied. He said it was a meeting room for clients. He said I was being paranoid. He actually laughed and asked me if I was feeling okay, like maybe I needed to talk to someone about my anxiety. That's what they do, you know? They make you think you're crazy for believing your own eyes.
And I wanted so badly to believe him. So I did. I pushed that doubt down so deep and told myself I was overreacting.
I told myself that 8 years of marriage meant something, that he wouldn't throw it all away. I was lying to myself, and somewhere deep down, I knew it.
2 months later came the charity gala. Every year, the regional hospital throws this massive fundraiser, and Brandon's company was one of the main sponsors.
It's the kind of event where everyone dresses up, writes big checks, and networks. I had been to 4 of them before. They were usually boring, but they were important for Brandon's business relationships.
I wore a burgundy dress that night. I remember looking at myself in the mirror before we left and thinking, I look good, really good. My locks were freshly done, my makeup was perfect, and that dress fit me like it was custom made.
I thought maybe this would be the night things felt normal again. Maybe we'd dance, laugh, remember why we chose each other.
We got to the mansion where they held the event, and it was beautiful. Chandeliers, white tablecloths, waiters carrying trays of champagne. There were probably 200 people there. I noticed the cameras right away.
They had a professional video crew filming for the hospital's promotional materials, and security cameras were positioned all around the venue.
Just something I observed, didn't think much of it at the time. Brandon was in work mode immediately, shaking hands, making conversation, doing his networking thing. I was used to it.
I made small talk with people I barely knew and smiled until my face hurt. About an hour into the event, she walked in.
Vanessa. I'd met her twice before at company functions. She worked in Brandon's office, some kind of junior position in project coordination.
28 years old, blonde hair, always dressed just a little too provocative for a work event. Both times I'd met her, she'd been polite enough. I never saw her as a threat. Why would I? She was just some girl who worked for my husband. But the moment she walked into that gala, I knew. It's like my body knew before my brain could catch up. She wasn't dressed like an employee attending a work function. She was dressed like she was there for someone specific.
And the way she looked at Brandon, the way he looked at her, it was like watching a conversation happen without words.
I stood there holding my champagne glass, watching my husband's face light up for someone who wasn't me.
Watching him smile the way he used to smile at me, my stomach felt like it was full of rocks. They weren't standing together, weren't being obvious about it, but I could see everything.
The way he'd glance across the room to find her. The way she'd touch her neck when she caught him looking.
At one point, they both stepped out onto the terrace. They were only gone for maybe 10 minutes, but it felt like hours.
When they came back inside, Vanessa had this look on her face, smug, satisfied, like she'd just won something. And maybe she had. I walked up to them while they were standing near the bar. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but I kept my voice calm. I said I needed to speak with Brandon privately. That's it. Nothing dramatic, just a simple request.
Brandon didn't even look at me. He just said, "Not now, Diana. I'm networking."
Vanessa actually giggled, this little laugh like I was some kind of annoyance, and something in me just snapped.
I looked directly at her and said, "I know about you too." The smile fell off her face. For just a second, she looked scared. But then something shifted. She glanced at Brandon, and he didn't defend me. He didn't say anything. He just stood there. And that silence told her everything she needed to know. She stepped closer to me and said, "Maybe he wants someone who isn't so difficult to deal with."
People around us were starting to notice. The conversation was getting tense, voices were raising just slightly. I could feel eyes turning toward us.
I kept my voice steady. I said, and maybe he wants someone who's actually his legal wife and not his employee that he's harassing. That's when she slapped me.
"200 people watching me stand there with my face stinging and tears starting to form in my eyes. I looked at Brandon. This was the moment. This was where he was supposed to step in, to defend me, to be my husband.
Instead, he grabbed Vanessa's arm and said to me, "You're making a scene. You need to leave."
He chose her. Right there in front of everyone, he chose her. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just turned around and walked out of that mansion with my head up and my heart in pieces. I made it to my car before the tears came. I sat at that parking lot and sobbed until I couldn't breathe.
The next 3 days were the darkest of my life. I stayed in bed, I couldn't eat, I couldn't think straight. Brandon didn't come home. He sent me a text message saying he was staying at a hotel and that his lawyer would be contacting me about divorce proceedings. Everyone was talking about it, the slap, the scene. Poor Brandon and his crazy, jealous wife, that's what people were saying.
I saw the social media posts. I heard the whispers. Women I thought were my friends suddenly stopped answering my calls. My mother flew in from North Carolina. She held me while I cried and told me that sometimes the worst moments in life are actually doorways to something better. Then the phone call came. The director of the hospital foundation called me personally. She apologized for what happened at their event. She said they had to review all the footage from that night for their records. And she asked if I wanted to see what the cameras had captured. I said yes. 2 days later, I sat in a conference room with the foundation director and their legal team. They pulled up the video footage on a large screen. Multiple angles, multiple cameras, every moment of that night documented. I watched myself arrive with Brandon. I watched Vanessa walk in. But then I saw things I hadn't seen in real time.
There was footage of Brandon and Vanessa in the coat room, kissing, her whispering something in his ear that made him laugh.
There was audio of them talking near one of the security cameras. Vanessa said, "When are you going to tell her?"
Brandon said, "Soon. I just need to handle it right so she doesn't take me for everything." They were planning my exit from my own marriage while standing at a charity event.
About 30 minutes before the slap happened, the cameras caught Brandon stepping outside to make a phone call.
The legal team had enhanced the audio. He was talking to his divorce attorney, discussing asset protection,
Talking about how he needed to make sure I looked unstable so the divorce would go his way. He brought Vanessa to that gala knowing I'd react. He wanted me to cause a scene so he could paint me as the crazy wife. The slap was just a bonus for him. I sat in that conference room and watched my husband plot against me, and something inside me went cold. The foundation director explained that they had a legal obligation to report what was on those tapes to Brandon's company.
Workplace relationships between supervisors and subordinates violated company policy.
This exposure is significant.
What Brandon had done could open the company up to harassment lawsuits. I didn't ask them to do anything. Within a week, Brandon's company launched an internal investigation. The board reviewed the footage. They saw everything.
Brandon was fired from the company he'd helped build. Vanessa was terminated immediately.
The video footage went public through official channels, and suddenly everyone saw what really happened. The messages started coming in. Apologies from people who'd believed the rumors. Support from people who had stayed silent.
Brandon tried to come back. He showed up at the house crying, saying Vanessa had manipulated him, that he'd made a mistake.
I looked at him and said, "I watched the tapes, all of them. You planned this. You wanted to destroy me." You could move on without consequences. He didn't deny it. He just stood there.
I filed for divorce with the best attorney I could find. With the video evidence, the settlement was heavily in my favor. I kept the house. I got a significant financial settlement. Brandon and Vanessa's relationship fell apart within months, buried under legal fees and public shame. That was 2 years ago. Today, I run my own architecture firm. I design community centers and affordable housing projects. And people ask me if I'm angry. Honestly, no. I'm grateful. Grateful that I found out who Brandon really was. Grateful that Vanessa showed me the truth. Grateful that those cameras were rolling so I didn't have to fight to be believed. And the truth doesn't need you to fight for it. It just needs time. If this story spoke to you, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories about real women who refuse to stay down. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had a moment where disrespect turned into your breakthrough? I read every single one. Remember, they can try to break you, but cameras are always rolling on the truth. Always.